Ah, the land of 10,000 lakes. But actually, did you know that Minnesota has over 20,000 lakes? And Wisconsin adds another 15,000 to that total. That's a lot of ways to cool off in these hot summer days. We're out on White Bear Lake today with the White Bear Lake Fire Department for this month's update. We have a lot to cover. We're going to talk about water emergencies, heat emergencies, and introduce you to our new EMS fellow, Dr. Abe Campos. I'm Dr. Peterson. Those are the 3 things you need to know. And get ready, you're watching the August edition of Regions EMS Update. Many moons ago, I had a summer job as a lifeguard. I guarded the heck out of Long Lake Beach in New Brighton and ended the summer with a grand total of 1 save. Fortunately, my saves outnumbered my losses, and the whole experience ignited a passion for emergency care. My journey has brought me full circle back to the water today as a board-certified EMS physician. Unfortunately, my legacy as a lifeguard is not finished, as we continue to see drownings and other water emergencies throughout our service area.
In a minute, I'm going to drown in this pool, surrounded by friends and relatives. That's because Dad thinks Mom is watching me, and Mom thinks Dad is. But actually, nobody is watching me. And you rarely make a sound when you're struggling.
Don't assume someone else is watching. Become a water watchdog and Abby's Hope.
Kind of haunting, isn't it? I remember the first time I saw that PSA, and as the parent of 2 small boys, that would be my worst nightmare. Minnesota and Wisconsin average 40 to 50 drownings per year over the last several decades without any real improvement. These incidents are often very emotionally charged, and there are usually plenty of people around willing to help, for better or for worse. Realistically, if the victim isn't out of the water by the time you get there, the chances of a good outcome are pretty slim. Everyone wants to cling to stories of prolonged submersion, but the reality is that after 10 minutes underwater, the chances of survival drop off dramatically. One of the first priorities in a drowning situation should be to establish an incident command structure. We're used to doing this on fire and rescue calls, but we really need to think about setting up a chain of command for complex medical incidents as well. This is a concept called crew resource management, which we'll discuss in more detail in an upcoming CME session. Without this, decision-making tends to be crowdsourced, loose, and inefficient, which is the last thing you want in an emotionally charged situation. If you happen to be part of a water rescue, there's a guideline for that, and here's what you need to know. First, assess the victim's mental status. A normal mental status is reassuring, but it's still important to encourage the patient to go to the hospital for a period of observation. Delayed respiratory problems, such as pulmonary edema, can happen up to 6 hours after submersion, so typically we watch these people for several hours in the emergency department. Next, assess the victim's breathing status. If there's any sign of respiratory distress, be prepared to provide assistance with positive pressure ventilation from either a CPAP or a BVM. Freshwater drownings tend to cause atelectasis. This happens when the inhaled water washes away the surfactant, or the fluid lining the air sacs in the lungs. This causes the air sacs to completely deflate and takes quite a bit of effort to pop open again, kind of like how the first breath is harder when you're blowing up a balloon. Fortunately, we can help with a little positive pressure ventilation. This would be a great time to dig up the PEEP valve that attaches to your BVM. Another decision that causes stress is when to forego resuscitation efforts. Even though 10 minutes is a realistic survival timeline, our guideline uses 60 minutes as a rule of thumb. Beyond an hour of submersion, the only time it makes sense to attempt resuscitation is if there's visible ice on the water or if the victim is a child. Survival after a lengthy submersion is mostly dependent on how fast the victim cools to hypothermic temperatures and the resiliency of youth. We're here for you, and sometimes we are literally sitting in our office waiting for a call. Don't be afraid to contact MRCC and request a physician or clinical supervisor response to be an extra medical resource during a rescue operation. One of the things I love about this area is the variation in weather. Most people think of endless winter when you mention Minnesota or Wisconsin, But the reality is that we can sizzle with the best of them when it comes to summer. From hypothermia to heat stroke, we Midwesterners have to be ready for all sorts of environmental emergencies. Heat emergencies are legit. They're truly time-sensitive emergencies with long-lasting consequences. The decisions you make on scene can definitely affect the chances of survival. Here's what you need to know. Check this out.
It's gonna be a scorcher today, with highs in the upper 90s and humidity at 100%.
It might seem like a no-brainer, but one of the easiest ways to prevent heat injury is by hydrating. Thirst often lags behind actual need for water. So when working in extreme heat, try forced drinking. This means drinking a set amount of water or electrolyte solution, even when you don't feel thirsty. Up to 1.5 quarts per hour is recommended. Just don't exceed 12 quarts in a day. Even the best planning and preparation can't always prevent heat stress injuries. So when injuries do occur, it's crucial you see the signs and take immediate, aggressive action. Signs of overheating can show up on the skin as heat rash, in the muscles as heat cramps, or as fainting. When you notice signs of heat injury, even minor ones, remove the victim from heat first, cool them down, and then get them to the right treatment. One serious type of heat injury is heat exhaustion, or simply overheating. The first type of heat exhaustion is called sodium depletion heat exhaustion, and it's caused by insufficient salt in the bloodstream. If a person drinks too much water, the body stays cool, but the person's blood becomes diluted. It can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, dizziness, weakness, rapid pulse, low blood pressure, confusion, and even seizures. To treat someone with these symptoms, first keep the person cool and replace body sodium while restricting fluid intake. The person in heat stress who does not drink enough water is in danger of water-deficient heat exhaustion. In this condition, the internal body temperature goes up, and there may be vomiting, confusion, anxiety, weakness, agitation. Victims may become delirious, dehydrated, hyperventilate, have widespread muscle spasms, and normal or high blood sodium levels. At this stage, heat stroke could be imminent, so immediately replace liquids and cool the victim down, fast. Cool victims of heat exhaustion almost any way you can. Cold packs, cooling blankets, or immersion in cold water are good options too. Whatever method you choose, do it right away, and then get the victim to medical treatment. The key is taking action fast, because if heat exhaustion isn't treated, it could progress to heat stroke. Heat stroke is life-threatening. Like with regular stroke, it means that there has been brain or spinal cord injury. In cases of heat stroke, the victim's internal temperature is greater than 103 degrees Fahrenheit. Victims may experience vomiting, diarrhea, feeling overheated, rapid or irregular pulse, fatigue, irritability, combativeness, hallucinations, loss of consciousness, and coma. Victims occasionally have feelings of euphoria. Sweating may or may not be present. And while heat stroke can and does progress from other heat stress injuries, it's important to remember that heat stroke can strike suddenly too, with little or no warning. Like with heat exhaustion, heat stroke victims need immediate and aggressive cooling, and prompt removal to a hospital while cooling is continued.
The key is to recognize true heat stroke and begin cooling immediately. That's the critical intervention, and it's something you can do just as effectively on scene. So I'm cruising today with Dr. Abe Campos, our new EMS fellow, who will be joining us for the next 12 months. Abe just finished his emergency medicine residency training program at the University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha. I figured this would be a good chance for you to get to know him a little better, so we're going to do a little carpool karaoke, but without the karaoke. So Abe, why Minnesota?
Well, yeah, I'm originally from Iowa and been in the Midwest my whole life and planning to do so, and got a lot of family in the Twin Cities area, and I've heard Regions EMS is a great program, so I'm glad to be a part of it.
So why EMS?
Well, being trained in emergency medicine, we work on a daily basis with EMS providers, and I believe that patient care begins on the streets, and I think that it plays a very vital role, so I'm glad to be a part of it as well.
Mac blade or Miller blade?
I have to go with Mac Blade. I'm all about the curve.
Stylet or Bougie?
Stylet's great to have around, but the Bougie, I like to think that I never miss with the Bougie, so I have to go with Bougie on that one.
Here's a good one. Tom Osborne or Herb Brooks?
Coming from Omaha, I'm going to have to go with my guy Tom. They're converting me into a Husker fan over there.
Hey, I grew up in Nebraska. I'm right with you on that one. So what's in store for the Campos clan after this year?
Well, I guess staying with our new Husker roots, we're going to plan to go back to Omaha in Nebraska and set up shop there for a while.
Well, Abe, we're excited to have you around. Abe's a fully authorized medical director, so don't be afraid to hit him up with any of your questions. We expect him to be out and about quite a bit, so I'm sure you'll see him on the streets in the very near future. Try to be nice and don't bite too hard. That's it for this month. Thanks for all the great feedback so far. We love hearing from you, so keep sending us ideas for future topics. You can hit us up at regionsems.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/regionsems, or on Twitter @regionsems. On behalf of all of us at Regions Hospital, we're here for you. Be smart, be safe, and be professional. See you next month.